This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this looks a lot like something we reviewed about 2 months ago because it is a lot like it. This is the Dell Latitude 7390 2-in-1, and 2 months ago we reviewed the 7389, which was an Intel 7th generation machine. So the 7390 has been updated with Intel 8th generation CPUs inside. Otherwise, it's the same lovable kind of black, rubbery, rugged yet compact, about the same size as the Dell XPS 13. But the trick inside versus the XPS is it's a 2-in-1, and it's a 2-in-1 with full Intel Core i5 and i7 quad-core 15-watt CPUs versus the Y series kind of underpowered CPUs in the XPS 13 2-in-1 series. So this goes up against the likes of the Lenovo X1 Yoga and HP Elite laptops. We're going to look at it now. So like the XPS 13, this is a 13.3-inch Ultrabook. There's a footprint that's closer to something like a 12-inch. With the 7390 series and the Dell Latitude 7000 series in general, the 7000 is always a high line in Dell lingo, no matter whether it's an Inspiron and anything like that. With this one, there's actually a 12-inch 2-in-1 as well, but that one's Intel Core Y CPU, so less powerful, lower powered, different kind of deal. And there are also conventional laptop models too. So this is obviously the 2-in-1 has 360-degree hinges back here, nice, beefy and firm hinges, and very stiff hinges. In fact, boy, that's quite amazingly stiff. And the whole thing is very rugged, and that's the idea. Like a ThinkPad. I mean, I'm not worried about doing this at all. This is something you don't want to drop on your foot. So that's one of the selling points for it. The nice soft touch rubbery finish means you probably won't drop it as much, so that's a good thing. It does pick up some fingerprints. It's not too bad. Ports on this, despite the fact that it's compact and it helps that it's not super duper skinny, are pretty ample on this. You've got several USB-A ports. You've got 2 USB-C. Thunderbolt 3 is optional. You can't get Thunderbolt 3 as an option, though, if you get the smart card reader. That's the slot where that would go, probably because there's not enough room for the Thunderbolt 3 daughter card that would be involved there. Now, this is available with Core i5 and i7 Intel 8th generation Kaby Lake R quad-core 15-watt U-series Ultrabook CPUs. Just to make it so confusing, Dell has the lowest and introductory model of this that's still called the 7390, not the 7389, but it has an Intel 7th generation Core i3 CPU. Okay, we're just going to ignore that because that's too confusing, and you might as well just go get an older 7389 if you want to save a little bit of money that way, right? So the Core i5 model is around $1,500 or so, $1,429, depends. Dell's prices are a little bit of a moving target on their website. Gets you 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gig M.2 SATA 3 M.2 128 gig SSD. So if you want to get 16 gigs of RAM, you have to go up to the Core i7, which does have that. And that's DDR3 low power 2133 megahertz RAM. Not DDR4, but that's pretty good speed on there. You can get PCIe NVMe SSDs. It's just an upgrade, with Dell's website, you pick and choose the parts that you want. You do have flexibility. You can get vPro CPUs if you want. We happen to have a 512 gig PCIe NVMe SSD. It's pretty fast. It's SK Hynix SSD in here, not a Samsung. So it's going to be luck of the draw with big manufacturers like Dell. They buy these in droves, so sometimes they can't get them all from one particular supplier. As you'd expect from a corporate laptop, this is the business line. This thing is pretty easy to open up if you want to service it and upgrade it. RAM is soldered on. Obviously, the SSD is socketed. So is the Wi-Fi card. We have an Intel 8265 AC card in here, and LTE is optional. Snapdragon X7 LTEA 4G modem you can get for this too, and there's a nano SIM card slot that would sit right beside the micro SD card slot over here. The Core i7 with 16 gigs of RAM, but still starting with 128 gig SSD, is $1,849. Add a couple of hundred on if you want to get yourself a more spacious and faster SSD. No matter what you do, you get a full HD 1920 by 1080 display, which is a perfectly acceptable resolution, particularly for a business laptop and one with a small panel. It gets a little weird and confusing when you look at their website because you see different options. That's because there's the narrow bezel option, there's the standard bezel option. You can't get the Windows Hello IR camera if you get the narrow bezel option because there's no room for that camera there. They're all covered with Gorilla Glass 4. And there's a kind of, it's not like your classic matte looking anti-glare coating, but it's an anti-reflective coating that is somewhat effective. It's Gorilla Glass, which is usually super duper glary. This is not so terrible. The metrics for the display you can see on screen, they're pretty reasonable. They're about what you would expect for a business class machine at this price range, or even a consumer one. The color gamut on this is close to full sRGB, for example. It's a nice enough looking display. It does need calibration like many. It's too blue and too cool out of the box. A Wacom AES digitizer and Dell's Active Pen are a standard hallmark here. Ours had the pen in the box. Yours probably will too. It looks like they bundle it with most SKUs. And this is, again, Wacom AES. It's a pretty good technology, 2048 levels of pressure sensitivity, and all the usual goodness that comes with Wacom AES. There's no parallax. That means the cursor is right where the tip of your pen is. Palm rejection is okay, not super duper amazing like Wacom EMR, but it's just as good as N-Trig and Surface Pro and all that sort of thing. Same technology that Lenovo is using with their Yogas these days as well. So it's fine for note-taking. It's even decent for some artwork too, so it's a versatile little machine. Since it's corporate-minded, besides that optional Windows Hello IR camera, there's a fingerprint scanner, and again, like I said, that smart card reader if you need it too, and you got a DTP M.2 inside to handle that kind of security. For expandability, you can use, Dell has several USB-C and Thunderbolt 3 docking solutions and dongle adapters, including DisplayPort adapters. So besides the fact you've got your two USB-A ports on board, a full-size HDMI, and of course a headphone jack, you've got even more expandability that's possible there. And you can use Dell's external batteries too with this, and they make several of those. In terms of performance, it's everything you'd expect from an Intel 8th Gen CPU. You've got much faster multi-core speeds because you have 4 cores instead of 2. But even the single-core speed on this is pretty good. If you take a look at the Geekbench 4 metric right there, that's a healthy score for a single-core score. It's a good performer. Just like the 7389 we reviewed, it does get toasty on the bottom. It's not going to burn you. This is not a razor blade gaming laptop, but it gets pretty darn toasty, and the fan, you will certainly hear it if you're working it hard. Otherwise, no. But it's like not even baby vacuum cleaner, infant vacuum cleaner, you know, you'll definitely notice that it's trying, it's working hard. But that's only if you're pushing it hard. So again, it's a very compact built laptop, so this is what's going to happen. I don't think that people will be deranged by it, but you won't be that silent person in the room if you're, you know, pushing it really hard. But probably in places like meetings where you worry about that, what are you going to be doing that's going to make it work that hard? Hopefully nothing, unless you're playing a game when nobody's looking. A 60 watt-hour battery is standard now in the Intel 8th generation models. They had the 45 watt and the 60 watt in the previous generation, so 60 is now standard. That's a healthy capacity battery. And we had the 60 watt-hour in the last gen model, but somehow this one is lasting longer. And the 60 watt-hour should do pretty well with this resolution display inside. And we've been doing about 7.5 to 8 hours with, you know, brightness set to 40% and doing mixed productivity work and some streaming of video, not editing 4K video and not trying to play Call of Duty, which it really can't do. It's an Ultrabook convertible, folks. Hey. A 65 watt adapter is standard with this. A 45 watt would work too, but they use the 65 watt, not because it needs that much juice, but it's for their express charging. It's rapid charging. In fact, I believe there's an optional 90 watt charger rather, that you can get for it too, but 65 is plenty quick enough. It does charge fairly quickly. The backlit keyboard on this, I like it quite a bit. I've said it before, I like it better than the XPS 13's keyboard. It has more key travel and more of a damped feel, so it feels easier on the fingers. It's nice and it's quiet. It's very pleasant to type on. You know, they're trying to really go up against the Lenovo ThinkPad line here, and they're largely successful. I think Lenovo still has that extra special sauce with keyboards, but this is very pleasant to type on. And the trackpad with 2 dedicated clicker buttons is nice, and they're a kind of soft touch too, so none of that really loud clicking thing or none of that. It takes so much pressure, your thumb's going to dislocate or something like that. They did a very nice job here with both of those inputs, as they should for a business product. To open it up, exposed Phillips head screws. You can see where they are, easy peasy. There's some little clips. You just yank on it, it'll come right off. And this looks, again, just like the last generation model. There's our fan right there. There's our heatsink with CPU. This is the Wi-Fi card right here. This is where the LTE 4G card would go if you went with that option right there. Here's our M.2 SSD heatsink on top of it. That's nice to see, since PCIe NVMe SSDs do get pretty toasty. Your battery, obviously, over here, RAM again, is soldered on board. And stereo speakers right towards the front edge, which is an intelligent place. And these are pretty loud and full, actually. They're pretty nice sounding, especially for what's called a business ultrabook. So that's the Dell Latitude 7390 2-in-1, available now. And for those of you who are torn between this and Lenovo products, really, this one's about the small footprint. That's its hallmark. Whereas the Lenovo products are about those awesome keyboards and pretty popularly with the X1 series, the 14-inch display size. This one is going to do the same job in less space. Now, it's got a very good keyboard. It might not be ThinkPad level, but it's a very enjoyable keyboard. Pretty good connectivity, especially for something this small and light. You've got the Wacom AES pen in the guise of the Dell Active stylus here. Good performance that you'd expect from quad-core 8th gen Ultrabook CPUs and a very rugged build. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, and thumbs up if you like this vid.